Hello, my name is Cassandra Martinez, and welcome to the CDCR Resource Planning and Reduction section Option Worksheet Instructional video, which will provide instructions as if an employee has received an Options Worksheet. This video was created as a tool to assist you in understanding the Options Worksheet, as Resource Planning and Reduction section, or RPRS, will not be conducting placement options meetings with impacted employees. This decision was made due to the state's fiscal situation, upcoming statewide reductions, and the large number of impact. If you have received an Options Worksheet packet, it means that you are either directly affected by position reductions or designated as one of the least senior in your classification in the area of layoff. Determinations were made as to which individuals placed on SROA would require an Options Worksheet based on classification, seniority score, and area of layoff. Options Worksheets are unique to each impacted employee and have been personalized to your specific situation. The Options Worksheets identify all available placement options, which will include permanent vacancies, as well as permanently funded positions filled by limited term or training and development assignments, as these are also considered vacancies for the purpose of placement. Employees will also be provided the opportunity to bump within the area of layoff, provided no vacancies exist for that classification. Individuals do not have the ability to elect a position in which they will bump into, as it is based on seniority, and typically the individual will be awarded the position held by the least senior staff in the area of layoff within the specific classification. The Options Worksheet packet will also include various tools, such as steps in the placement process and further information to assist the employee with making a decision. However, duty statements or position numbers will not be provided. If you have any questions after the review of this Options Worksheet, please contact the RPRS hotline at 877-297-5599. RPRS cannot advise employees which options are best for them, as this is a personal decision based upon each individual's circumstances. At this time, we will take the opportunity to explain the Options Worksheet, starting with page 1 of the worksheet titled California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation Placement/Layoff Options Worksheet.
Summary of Employees' Impacted Status. The information at the top of this page summarizes your impacted status. It will be listed as a header for every page of the Options Worksheet. In the event you contact RPRS, this information will be used to provide you with assistance. Employee name. This is your name, followed by the last 4 of your Social Security number. Layoff name. This is the name of the plan in which you are currently impacted. Impacted classification. This is the classification that you are impacted in. If you believe this to be incorrect, please contact RPRS. Please keep in mind this classification may be different than your current classification if you are currently working in a temporary capacity, such as a limited term appointment or training and development assignment. For example, if you are currently appointed limited term, the information listed would be for your last permanent appointment, as that is the classification in which you are impacted. Area of layoff. This is the area of layoff in which you are impacted. Impacted work location. This is the work location in which you are impacted. Preliminary seniority score. This will list your preliminary seniority scores along with the date in which the score is calculated through. The first score shown is your total state service score, which will include any exempt and/or military time that is on file with RPRS. The second score is your BU6 score, which includes any time that you may have served in a rank and file or supervisory BU6 classification. The last score shown is your BU13 score, which includes time you may have served in a rank and file BU13 classification. Seniority scores will be updated to your final seniority score and posted approximately 30 to 60 days prior to the layoff effective date. Return information and special notations. This Options Worksheet must be completed, signed, and faxed to 916-322-2393 by close of business on the date specified. Once your Options Worksheet has been submitted, even if before the due date indicated, RPRS will not accept any amendments. It is very important that you have considered all available options and are comfortable with all of the options you have selected, as well as ensuring that the entire document is complete. Again, Once an options worksheet is submitted to RPRS, absolutely no amendments will be accepted. Special notations. These are key notes regarding the placement process. RPRS can only facilitate placement to permanent positions within CDCR. RPRS has made every effort to ensure that vacancies listed in this worksheet are viable. However, if a vacancy is not available, RPRS will move on to your next selection in priority order. You must possess a valid license, credential, or certificate, and/or meet any special requirements that are associated with specific positions listed, or placement will not be facilitated. Contact information. It is your responsibility to keep your contact information current. Please check the box that is provided to indicate that the address reflected is correct. If your contact information as listed is inaccurate, please complete an Employee Action Request, or EAR form, and submit it to your institution personnel officer or personnel liaison immediately. This is the contact information that will be utilized by RPRS for official correspondence and/or notifications. In the contact information, there is an area designated to list contact numbers. Please list all possible contact numbers, as RPRS may need to contact you regarding your option worksheet. RPRS will only contact you if there is a question or concern regarding your selections, but it is essential that we can do so quickly, as these actions are time sensitive. If RPRS is unable to reach you within a reasonable time frame, we may proceed in determining a placement on your behalf, and you could be subject to layoff. It is required to initial and date the bottom of every page of this worksheet. Before submitting the options package to RPRS, please ensure that each page has been initialed and dated. Outline of available options and instructions. This section outlines the options that are available for you to select to maintain employment. They include remaining in your impacted classification and area of layoff based on your seniority or redirection to a vacant position, demoting to a classification identified in your primary or personal demotional pattern. A primary demotion is a demotion to a classification that is in your impacted classification's demotional pattern, typically within the series of the impacted classification. For example, a Staff Services Manager 3 can demote to a Staff Services Manager 2, which then demotes to a Staff Services Manager 1, etc. Your personal demotional pattern is to a classification you have held on a permanent basis in state service that is currently utilized by CDCR. This will exclude classifications that are specific to another state agency. This paragraph explains how to complete the various vacancies identified and provide direction on how to make your selections in priority order. We will touch on this in a later segment of this video, but in general, it is required that you indicate your interest for each vacancy listed by marking yes or no in the required fields. For those options that are of interest to you, mark yes in the appropriate field, and then prioritize those selections, starting with the number 1 and continue. A priority number should only be used once throughout the entire document. Therefore, double-check your selections to ensure that there are no duplicate priority numbers before you submit the worksheet to RPRS. In an effort to maintain the integrity of the process, RPRS will not allow write-ins. If an option is not listed, it will not be considered. Voluntary separations options. This section of the worksheet is optional. It allows you the option to resign, retire, or elect to be laid off. You may also indicate whether you want to maintain or waive your reemployment rights if you voluntarily separate through this process. If you select a voluntary separation option, you do not need to select any of the vacancies listed. However, you must sign and date in the acknowledgment and completion section and submit to RPRS by the due date indicated on the first page of the options worksheet. If you have elected to voluntarily separate and maintain your reemployment rights, you must complete the Reemployment List Election form at the end of the worksheet and return with the Options Worksheet by the due date indicated. Acknowledgment and completion. It is very important to understand that CDCR may facilitate placement on your behalf, and you could be subject to layoff if you do not complete and submit the Options Worksheet by the due date identified on the first page. Please sign, date, and print your name. Signing this document indicates that you have reviewed and completed the entire document. Please remember to initial and date the bottom of this page as well. Again, this will be on every page of the worksheet. Summary of available options. This page outlines the options that will be available to you per your specific situation. You will see vacancies listed through the following pages of the Options Worksheet in your impacted classification, your primary and/or personal demotional patterns. Each of these were previously explained in this video. However, as a reminder, a primary demotion is a demotion to a classification that is in your impacted classification's demotional pattern, typically within the series of the impacted classification. Your personal demotional pattern is to a classification you have held in state service on a permanent basis that is currently utilized by CDCR. Employees in the Teacher Elementary-Multiple Subjects classification, class code 2287, and Teacher High School-General Education classification, class code 2290, are offered vacancies in both classifications per an agreement between SEIU and the department. This may warrant an extra section in your Options Worksheet. Vacancy listing. Starting with page 4 of the Options Worksheet, vacancies applicable to your specific situation are listed by classification. There will be vacancies listed for your impacted classification, classifications identified for your primary and personal demotional patterns, all of which were previously discussed in this video and were outlined on page 3 of the Options Worksheet. RPRS has made every effort to ensure that the vacancies identified in your Options Worksheet are viable. However, if a vacancy is not available, RPRS will move on to your next selection in priority order. Placements will be awarded by seniority within the area of layoff. It is beneficial for impacted employees to select as many options as they are willing to accept placement to. For each classification listed in this section, the following information is identified. County. This is the county in which the vacancies are located. Facility or program name. This is the name of each CDCR work location that has a vacancy listed. If you would like specific information regarding the vacancies, you may contact the program areas by using the contact listing that was enclosed in your options packet. Vacancy ID number. This number is an internal tracking number utilized by RPRS only. Therefore, please do not reference this ID number to a facility or program. You may, however, reference it if you call the RPRS hotline. Number of vacancies. This indicates how many vacancies per location the facility or program has in that classification. TB. This represents the time base of the position. If a vacancy shows a time base of 1.0, then it is a full-time position. Anything less than 1.0 is less than full-time. For example, 0.5 would be half-time. Please keep this in mind when making your selections, that some locations may be listed multiple times because the vacancies are various time bases. Yes and no. This is where it is required that each box be completed to indicate your interest in each vacancy. Please mark yes if you are interested in the vacancy or no if you are not interested for each vacancy listed. A recommendation is to go through all of the vacancies presented in your worksheet and mark yes or no on all of the options. Then return and prioritize each vacancy you have marked yes to the order in which you would prefer your placement to be in. Priority. Use this column to prioritize your selections. For every selection you marked yes, place a priority number on the corresponding line. Even though the vacancies provided to you are divided into various sections, you must treat all of the options as one listing. You will only use each priority number once in the entire worksheet. For example, if you were interested in 20 options, you would mark your options 1 through 20 throughout the entire worksheet. Employees are encouraged to select as many options that they are willing to accept as a placement. By selecting as many options as possible for your individual circumstance, you assist RPRS in attempting to facilitate your placement. However, even though we encourage all employees to select as many as possible, please do not select any options that you are unwilling to accept placement to. If RPRS awards you a position you have selected, you will be required to report to that position. Failure to report will result in you being designated absent without leave unless you obtain permanent employment to a location that is not impacted prior to the effective layoff date. This area of the worksheet provides you the opportunity to choose bumping within the area of layoff in the classification listed. Bumping can occur only within your area of layoff if there are no vacancies available in the classification and if your seniority allows. The only classifications you can elect to bump into are your impacted classification and classifications identified in your primary or personal demotional pattern. If you are interested in bumping, please complete the boxes identified for bumping by priority as explained previously. You will be given the opportunity to select whether you want to bump into a full-time or part-time position, or both, and prioritize accordingly. You do not get to select a specific position to bump into. Instead, you are electing to bump the least senior impacted employee in that classification within the area of layoff in accordance with your selection. This option will only be utilized if your seniority will allow it and if there are no vacancies available in the classification and the area of layoff at the time of your placement. The next sections will list vacancies in classifications identified as your primary and/or personal demotional patterns. You will review these sections in the same manner as previously explained. When prioritizing your options, keep in mind that even though your options are divided into various sections, you must treat all sections as one listing when prioritizing your selections. Reemployment. The Reemployment List Election document is to be returned with the Options Worksheet by the due date indicated on the first page of the Options Worksheet. In the event you have been laid off, demoted, or relocated more than 50 miles from your work location, you will be placed on the appropriate reemployment listing for the classification you were impacted in and/or any classifications you were given demotional rights during layoff and have demoted through. Employees appear in seniority order on all reemployment listings and will remain on reemployment for 5 years or until they are hired from the reemployment list into a permanent full-time position. This document allows you to select the tenure, time base, and geographical area or areas in which you are interested in receiving employment inquiries from the reemployment listing. Please remember that you have unlimited waivers for employment inquiries relating to your reemployment status. Please indicate if you are interested in permanent and/or temporary reemployment status. You may select both of these options. Also, you will need to indicate if you are interested in full-time, part-time, or permanent intermittent status. You are not limited to only selecting one of these options. You may select as many as you are interested in considering. You will now indicate any county that you are interested in having reemployment status in. You may select as many counties for which you would like to receive employment inquiries. You also have the option of selecting statewide. If you are not interested in receiving employment inquiries for your reemployment status, you may check the box provided to indicate you would like to be placed on the inactive reemployment listing. You can reactivate your name at any time during the 5 years you have reemployment eligibility by writing to the State Personnel Board at the address provided on this document. You may also change your address and the preferences you have selected on this document. Please sign and date the document and submit with the entire Options Worksheet by the designated due date.
That concludes the instructional portion of this video. As a reminder, please read and follow all directions on the Options Worksheet, as well as the cover letter you have received. Please ensure the Options Worksheet is complete and submit by the designated due date along with the Reemployment List Election document. You should retain a copy for your records. Failure to return the necessary documents by the due date indicated by RPRS on the first page of the Options Worksheet may result in RPRS determining placement on your behalf, and you could be subject to layoff. To assist staff with these times, Human Resources maintains the CDCR layoff resource pages on the intranet and internet. These sites include support services and training sessions offered by the Office of Employee Wellness, as well as detailed information and frequently asked questions related to layoffs and reductions. If you have any questions regarding the Options Worksheet or at any point during the layoff process, contact the RPRS Customer Service Unit Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. at 877-297-5599 or via email at cdcr.rprshelpdesk@cdcr.ca.gov. In closing, we understand these are stressful times and your concerns and frustrations are shared. We recognize the hard work and dedication of every CDCR employee, and these reductions are not a value statement of our employees. We hope you have found this information to be helpful, and we thank you for your time and attention.